This right here is my track car. It's a 2007 Toyota Yaris, and last time I had it out on track, I saw the oil pressure drop to 0, which, you know, is not good. But all might not be lost. There's a couple ways the sensor could be reading 0, which are easy fixes, and then there are some very catastrophic issues. So we're gonna go through everything and see where we're at, whether this is going to be a minor fix or a major fix. So let me break this down. There are 2 oil pressure sensors, the OEM one and an aftermarket one. It's highly unlikely that both would fail, so we've got a whole checklist of possible causes of low oil pressure. So basically, I'm gonna test the sensors, test the pressure with a mechanical gauge, and then check the oil from any metal, and go from there, see if we need to start replacing parts or not. So I'm gonna start up the engine just to quickly check the gauges. I normally wouldn't recommend this, but this thing did run for minutes and minutes after I noticed 0 oil pressure when I was at track. There's no leaks, there's no hole in the block or anything like that. There's no weird noises coming from the engine, which makes me think it is something mundane like a sensor failure, but I want to show you what's going on with the sensor. So already we're seeing something different. Instead of showing 0, this gauge is now not working at all. Obviously, I don't want to run the engine too long, especially if there is an actual issue, but what I want to do now is I want to plug in a different electronic gauge to that sensor to see if it's a problem with the cabling and see if I read any pressure at all. So I'm unplugging this AEM gauge and instead plugging the same sensor into my Banks iDash. I've talked about the iDash before, but I haven't mentioned that it also has expansion modules so you can add any sensors you want. Okay, so I hooked up the Banks iDash with the cable that I need to hook directly into the pressure sensor. So now I'm getting oil pressure on my iDash as well. Let's start this up and see if we see that number change. No change. So that means there's nothing wrong with the cable or the gauge. It could be something wrong with the sensor itself. That'll be one of the next things I check. But to check the sensor, I'm basically going to have to drain the oil. So I'm going to check all the things that I could with the oil drained. This oil hasn't been in the car long, only about a few track days, and it's pretty obvious that there's no glitter or metal shavings. The issue could also be a clog in the oiling system. I did notice a bit of sealing tape in the sandwich plate, but nowhere near enough to cause a clog. Okay, so both of these sensors look fine. I don't know, I don't have a lot of knowledge on pressure sensors and what they're supposed to look like. But there's no obvious clogs or anything like that. I'm gonna start by dropping the oil pan and seeing if there's any obvious evidence of something wrong there. I would really like to find something that is super obvious and shows where this issue is coming from, because if everything looks fine, but the oil pressure is still reading 0, I have no idea. So hopefully we find something obvious before we tear into the full engine. By the way, if you're looking to do anything like this with your Yaris or another car, there is now a 10% off code in the description below thanks to FR Sport. They've got some of my favorite Yaris parts in stock, like my front and rear sway bars, the top hats, and even the Cusco LSD that I have. So whether you're looking for parts to make your car look cool or parts to make your car go fast, 10% off at FR Sport might help you out. And every part bought with my code helps me out as well. So if you're looking for parts, be sure to give FR Sport a look through first, and hopefully that code will help you out. The next step is to investigate the oil pan. If there's any evidence of clogs or chunks or bits of metal, it's gonna be here. While this engine has definitely seen some miles, there's no metal shavings or chunks. So there's a lot of like this down at the bottom, but this is like rubber. This is gasket material. It could be that this engine went full on GR86 on me and clogged the pickup with gasket material. So I gave the pan a good cleanup and got it ready to put back on the engine. I also hooked up a mechanical pressure gauge so there's no chance of electronic failure. Okay, it's cold, it's rainy. I just put some oil in this. Let's give it a test. The oil pressure over here. Nothing over here. Sounding a little chattery. Nothing. Okay, I'm inside because it's rainy, it's cold, and I don't even want to look at the Yaris right now. Zero oil pressure still. Zero on the mechanical gauge, zero on the electrical gauge. It's not like we really did anything. We didn't find any evidence of a problem. My instinct is that the oil pump is not pumping at all. But with the valve train moving, you would at least get something. You'd get like 2 or 3 PSI. You'd get the needle even like kind of moving. The fact that it's at zero, like completely at zero, is what weirds me out. And I'm really worried that I'm gonna open that up and see a perfectly functioning oil pump. Overnight, I got to thinking about not only what the issue could be, but if it was even worth fixing. So here's where I'm at. We can go in and change the oil pump. That means removing the valve cover, removing the front FIAD, and getting the whole front of the engine off to replace that, and there's no guarantee that that fixes the problem. If the problem is something bigger than that, then this is an engine out job, and honestly, this engine's not worth it. It would be easier and it would cost less to throw in a JDM 1.5 liter at that point, or even go to the 1.8, go to the 2ZR. The car would probably be down a little longer because of that, because there would be, you know, some little things like I would have to get rid of my ECU tune and all kinds of stuff, and I'd basically have to find a donor XD. But I kind of want to leave the decision up to you guys. So leave a comment below whether you think I should try and salvage this engine, whether I should throw in a new 1.5 and get this on the road in about a month, or if I should try the 2ZR route and realistically with my timetables probably not getting it running again until like January. You know, that's the way it goes. But yeah, let me know, and I'll catch you in the next video.